Alright, let us begin our journey into American history. Today we're going to be talking about the Roanoke colony. Now, in the 16th century, Queen Elizabeth sent a group of explorers to go colonize Roanoke Island, which is found in North Carolina. And so she instructed Mr. Sir Humphrey Gilbert to do her bidding, and she basically she gave him a charter and told him to go colonize the area. And like a good man, he agreed duly and went off to do his duty. Now, unfortunately, he did not meet a very fantastic end, and he ended up drowning before he could ever attempt to colonize the area. So, when Queen Elizabeth heard this news, she was obviously very sad, but maybe not quite remorseful enough. And so she then proceeded to pull the next person in line. And this was Ralph Lane and Richard Greenfield, and they would be in control of the charter, and they would not actually be sailing to Roanoke, but they would be in charge of the entire operation. They agreed without issues, and the date and time was set to depart. So, they loaded up their ship, a brand New England galley, and they loaded up 107 men and set sail. Now, they set sail on April 27th, 1584. "107 men. Anyways, eventually they landed, and it just so happens that they landed on July 4th of that same year. Now, upon landing, they already began to develop relationships with the natives, who were the Socotoans and the Croatoans. Barlow actually returned to England. He was one of the main navigators and captains on the ship, while he left the colonists to continue to create their settlements. Now, it wasn't easy work. Obviously, not all relationships with the natives were necessarily peaceful, but after a few months of planning and building, they had gotten together a nice little fort, as shown by here. This would have been some sort of typical fort plan, although there are no pictures of the actual fort. This is what experts believe it to look like. And so, unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, not all relationships with the natives were peaceful, and so eventually the natives attacked them. Now, this was probably over trade issues, generally European abuse of the natives, but regardless of what it was bloody. And so the settlers were forced to defend in their outpost, and they did eventually win. They held out. A few deaths, but it was a bloody fight, probably directed by Quentin Tarantino, if there was a director. Anyways, so eventually the trade ship that we all know that left in 86 and fated to come back 87 came back, and they found no traces, none at all. Now, this disappearance has been very famous because there are so many theories, although we've never been able to certainly prove one. And so these are the hypotheses. Let's just look this one up real quick. Yeah, I think we got it. Anyways, so the first one is integration. Basically, the theory is that the colonists completely integrated into the native population. However, this doesn't explain where the fort went and how they settled their rocky relationship in the past. Another theory would be the Spaniard theory, and that is that the Spaniards came and completely wiped them out. Now, this has some validity because they actually did this to a French colony earlier in the year completely wiped it out. And so this isn't impossible, because that could explain the reason why there was no signs. Now we're going to just count by odds here, I guess. Anyways, number 5, the Dare tablets. This is the most interesting and mysterious. Basically, a woman who was from the Dare County, which is where Roanoke Island is, wrote some tablets. Supposedly, they were discovered in 1937, and some historians believe they accurately depict why the colonists died, while others just say that they're a hoax. And that is pretty much it. There's been a lot of mystery surrounded with Roanoke Island, but overall, it's a very fascinating topic.